How can sanctuary cities exist in America? They literally are giving violent illegal immigrants the protection to harm and even kill Americans. At this hour, 3 illegal immigrants are in custody for horrific crimes in Democrat-led cities. The violence is fueling even more criticism of soft on crime policies, which perpetrate a dangerous new chapter of catch and release. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. In Chicago, police arrested an illegal alien for allegedly hiding a woman's body in a bleach-filled container for nearly 2 months. Investigators say they believe she died of a drug overdose. The suspect, again, was here illegally, but under Illinois law, nothing apparently was enough to hold him. He was let go after his first court appearance just this spring. Now the feds have him in ICE custody. And in sanctuary New York City, 2 illegals are in custody for shooting an off-duty Border Patrol officer. One of those suspects was previously deported and was arrested 4 times before this happened. He was released without bail every single time. Here's Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
There's absolutely zero reason that someone who is scum of the earth like this should be running loose on the streets of New York City. I'm calling on every single mayor in sanctuary city and sanctuary governor to change their policies and to change their tactics right now. Their job is to take an oath to protect the public, to protect families that are out there every single day trying to provide for each other and to try to live the American dream, and they want to do so safely in their own communities.
Secretary Noem, and you see off her left shoulder, right screen, was the border czar, Tom Homan. They're both here with their teams and have visited already that Border Patrol officer who is in the hospital. Tom Homan describing it as just heartbreaking. Well, President Trump is summing it up this way. Crime in American cities started to significantly rise when they went to cashless bail. The worst criminals are flooding our streets and endangering even our great law enforcement officers. It is a complete disaster and must be ended immediately. The New York Post covered today. Land of the free, referencing a criminal illegal. CB Cotton in New York City reporting the details. CB.
Hi, Harris. This morning, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem slamming some of the leaders in the nation's largest city, saying this attempted robbery that's left a CBP agent shot and injured is what happens when sanctuary city policies are allowed to continue.
My hope is that this would wake up these individuals and they would recognize that they can't keep letting these dangerous criminals go free. They can't continue to let these individuals be brought in for crimes they're committing against the public and then releasing them right back onto the streets with no consequences whatsoever.
DHS says both suspects are Dominican nationals now in custody. The agency says both men entered the country illegally under the Biden administration and have lengthy rap sheets. Federal sources tell Fox both men were even caught on video during an armed robbery in Massachusetts. Secretary Noem says they were repeatedly arrested and released before ICE agents could take them into custody. We learned today federal prosecutors are now pursuing charges against both men for their role in the attempted robbery of that off-duty CBP agent late Saturday night. That agent is now recovering at the hospital. Investigators don't believe the agent was targeted for his job, but both Noem and border czar Tom Homan have visited the officer and praised him for his bravery. And Homan had this warning for sanctuary cities: expect more ICE agents.
Sanctuary cities are now our priority. We're going to flood the zone. You don't want to let us into jail to arrest a bad guy in the safety and security of a jail. You want to release him into the street, which makes it unsafe for the community, makes it unsafe for the officer, makes it unsafe for the alien.
And we're monitoring to see what charges may be filed today. Harris.
CB, thank you very much for getting us started. Ben Domenech, the Spectator's editor-at-large and Fox News contributor, is in Focus Now. Look, Ben, this is going to hit every politician in this city of New York and in sanctuary cities across the country. And that seems to be the only thing they really pay attention to.
It really does, Harris. And unfortunately, I think that it's events like this that illustrate for us the terrible consequences of the decisions that have been made by blue state and blue city politicians across this country repeatedly when it comes to allowing this type of criminal element to run rampant throughout our cities in ways that don't just endanger, the people. They don't just endanger the folks who are just trying to go about their daily business. It endangers everything about our structure and our way of life. I think that this is something that is truly almost an act of terror against community, against neighborhood, against belief that you can walk along our city streets and neighborhoods without being threatened by people who should not even be here in the first place, people who are capable of incredible criminal acts. Look, I read with disgust this story about this horrible person who apparently, put this woman in a bleach barrel for 2 months. I mean, these are not the kind of people who we want in our neighborhoods. And so to accept this democratic fiction that everyone who is here illegally is somehow just some migrant worker trying to make their way and find their way within the American dream and that kind of thing. It's absolute BS, and we shouldn't accept it. These are not people who should be here. We should be finding them, we should be rounding them up, and we should be deporting them as quickly as possible. And frankly, I think that the key reason that Donald Trump is the president of the United States today is because he understood this during the 4-year period where we saw the rampant illegal nature of the border under Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't want to forecast this because it's heartbreaking, but it was kind of a sequitur. You treat the illegal aliens who are here committing violent crimes as though they are the victims, and this is what you get. Mayor Eric Adams visited this Border Patrol officer, and so far, silence from Democratic mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. He's had some choice words for ICE agents, as we know, in the past, and would love to defund the police. His campaign website, under the Trump Proffing NYC tab, says Mamdani will ensure our immigrant New Yorkers are protected by strengthening our sanctuary city apparatus, getting ICE out of all city facilities and ending any cooperation, increasing legal support and protecting all personal data. He's also posted on social media about ICE spreading fear. New York City will not stand for it, he said, and pledged when he becomes mayor, the NYPD will serve the public safety of New Yorkers, not assist Trump's ICE agents tearing apart families and spreading fear through our neighborhoods. And these anti-ICE policies go all the way back to when Mamdani was running for state assembly in 2020. By the way, I want to mention, we haven't heard from him. He did post going into the weekend that he'd be on an extended vacation in Uganda visiting his family. Now, this is interesting. His name is all over everywhere, and he vanishes, basically. He told us where he's going, but he's not, not all over social media the way he had been. So I'll get your take on that in a moment. But he's going to break the city if he becomes mayor.
I think that this is a situation where Mamdani has almost intentionally removed himself from the situation in a moment when so much more attention is being paid to the radical policies that he's endorsed over the past and that he's continuing to endorse. I also think that this current moment, and I know that you've seen the images of all the different people who haven't endorsed him yet. I think this particular moment is an indictment of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. Their inability to stand up against this type of radicalism within their own party is something that should be very easy for them to push back against. It should be very easy for them to come out and say, no, we're not in favor of globalizing the intifada. We're not in favor of targeting ICE agents. We're not in favor of, backing, elements within our own ranks that want to defund the police, that want to remove them from our homes and our neighborhoods in ways that only make people unsafe. And that's something that should be very easy for them to say. And the fact that they can't say it is one of the reasons why the Democratic Party is going to continue to be a minority party in this country. It's just so easy. If you can find a Democratic politician who's in favor of cops and the Bible and the flag and the military, they're going to be the next leader of that Democratic Party. But they can't find that because it increasingly seems like the next element of the young generation within that party, they don't believe in any of those things.
Well, look, it just got a whole lot more difficult for Mamdani when he does decide to come back to America from visiting family in Uganda, because he's coming back to a storm now that really pushes against his idea of not working with ICE. He's going to get people killed. Your last thought.
I just think that this is a situation where the Democratic Party needs to understand if they want to be a majority party, if they want to be some party that appeals to the middle of America, they're not going to be able to be a party that includes the likes of Zohran Mamdani. They're going to be the kind of party that says that is something that does not exist within our ranks, and it's not something we're going to accept. It's certainly not something we're going to endorse. And as long as they do not understand that, they are going to be a minority party in this country because the American people are going to reject it as the nonsense that it is.
Yep, the number of independents growing by the day in New York City. Ben Domenech, great to see you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.